Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ascension Files. I'm back here with Jules Rose for another episode. And today we're going to just shoot the shit like we normally do and see what comes out. But we do have some topics we want to talk about. And Jules Rose, she started her own Instagram account called Stinkerbell 2021 based off of our last conversation. And she's about to put up her first video. And in that video, she talks about not needing permission to be great. And so I wanted that to be the foundation to our show today, is this idea that as the light workers that have kind of gone into our cocoon for a while, now coming out in this new spring, in this new season, you know, how do we be? How do we be human anymore? How do we participate in this craziness, in this prison planet? And how do we be great now? And so just give a little bit about where that kind of came up for you in the last month or two, where this idea where it's like, hey, we just got to do it. We just got to do it ourselves now, you know?
Yeah. Well, and, you're talking about us kind of basing this conversation off of, not asking for permission, learning how to take our power back and be sovereign and use our sovereignty to then, go out into the world. And I've had all these other kind of surface level things that I felt compelled to speak on, but then I made that first video and I cut out a whole bunch of it. It was about other little specific things, that I'm mad about or whatever, but this is what came through. And so I think for me, that's what's important. And then I noticed that you made one of your updates about being sovereign, right? And so I think that that's just kind of naturally come through, because that's kind of the basis of how we exist in this time, in a new season, on this prison planet with all this chaos going on. That has to come first. And it just came out that way,
Mm-hmm. And is that something that you're trying to apply in your life more now, is just doing and being and not asking for permission? But you do it, the way you explain it is, don't be a dick about it. Don't be an asshole.
Right.
Be the light bearer that you are, but don't ask for permission to be great,
right.
In any capacity. So in your mind, what is greatness? What is being great in your mind?
Well, I mean, for me, being great is feeling like I'm in charge of my own life, making my own decisions for myself, not allowing anybody else on the outside to convince me that they know what's best for me. And that goes on an interpersonal level, all the way up to government, and you know what I mean? All the agencies and everything. So that to me is what greatness is. I'm not a very materialistic person, and I'm not a big, I don't have to have a lot of things or diplomas or titles, but so I don't really have a need for that stuff. Greatness, right? Financial greatness, or, for me, it means having integrity, feeling like I'm in charge of my own life, doing something that feeds me. That's greatness to me. And I think, you mentioned being kind. And so I think two big things is do no harm. And that's a universal law. We've been all wrapped up in political laws and laws of our country and our governing peoples, but I think we need to go back to universal law. That's do no
Natural
harm.
law, right? Yeah, I was just reading about that. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. So do no harm, which means being kind. Being kind is not being nice. I equate being nice to people pleasing and bending over and rolling over for people, but being kind means that you can still have boundaries. You can still be truthful. You can still make really hard choices and do really tough things. But so do no harm, being kind. And so I'm going to run my life the way I see fit, but I'm going to be kind about it. And I think that's the best. I mean, it's attraction, not promotion. It still comes down to that. If we want to make some changes in this world, we don't go around screaming and yelling about them in people's faces. You need to make these changes. It's just not effective, especially during this time. Everybody is triggered and suspicious and of everything. And so it's not about telling people about the changes. It's about being the change first and
Yes.
doing it the kind way so it looks good. And so people see like how it works and that it makes me a happier person,
100%.
you know?
I
Yeah.
what was really powerful for me last year around this time was I had a client give me some homework, some spiritual homework. He told me to go home and do two exercises. The first exercise was to look myself in the mirror and tell myself that I loved myself, which at that time I had never done and I had never even thought about doing. And at first was very hard, was
Why?
very weird. Huh?
Yeah, because why? Like nobody's ever taught us to do that.
No, absolutely not. And I went a step further and I would say in my right eye, I love you. In my left eye, I'm proud of you. And what I
Mm,
would do is at that time, my body was like just a mess, right? I was not where I am at all. 50 pounds, probably difference, maybe 40-pound difference at this point. Everything was messed up. I just was, ugh. And I purposely stood in the mirror naked and said that to myself until
mm,
the shower steamed the mirror up, and then I would go take my shower. And I did it every day for 3 months, and it really really helped me. And then the second thing he told me to do was write down 3 to 5 core values, and I actually have mine right here. So I wrote down 3 to 5 core values, and I'll read them here today because I haven't read them in a bit, and they were very powerful. And so the way I looked at my core values was not only who do I stand for and represent, but what was the change in my values? What was changing in me that I wanted to become more of? And
mhm,
I looked at all the experiences I was going through the decay, through the dark winter of the soul, through all the relationships that were falling apart on me. And I was seeing like what were the trends. And that's when I established my 3 to 5 core values. And so the first one's integrity, always integrity. Without integrity, I have
mhm,
nothing. I am nothing without integrity. To me, it's the number one core value because it anchors all the rest of them. Integrity allows me to wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and allows me to fall asleep when my head hits the pillow at night. I think it's very important that we not only name our core values, but also explain them out, what they mean. And writing them is very powerful because it's part of manifestation.
it is.
Um, the
Yeah.
second one, oh yeah, and then I put a little quote so you can. So I said, "Who am I when nobody's looking?" That's what
Mm,
integrity means. It's not about
perfect.
when everybody's looking. It's when nobody's looking. Who are you to yourself and to the
Yeah,
people closest to you?
perfect.
The second one's humility. As a
Hmm.
Marine, humility hasn't always come easy, especially when distracting from the pain inside with boisterous bravado. But humility is essential in the continued growth and evolution of a human being. It takes humbling oneself as well as one being humbled by the universe to find the sweet spot where harmony can be reached. But as I'm learning, this path towards being human is naturally humbling as it gets. And I says, I'm not special, but I am unique.
Right.
Third one's accountability. Accountability is the keystone to growth and evolution because it puts you in the driver's seat of your life. Every moment of every day, we make choices, and those choices have consequences, reactions that are good or bad, quote unquote. The moment we become accountable for all of it, we break free of ourselves and experience living for the first time. I own my choices. The fourth is commitment. Holding and keeping commitments is essential on so many levels. Keeping them with others forges and fosters deeper relationships. Keeping them with ourselves builds internal fortitude, trust, and confidence. While demonstrating to the world, you'll say what you do what you say, and by all of this, you end up showing up, which is 80% of it, which is do what you say you're going to do. And then the fifth one's authenticity is be real. The only way I can service, the only way I can survive in this world is if I'm around authentic humans. True conversation, connection, and understanding can heal, transform, and unify our world. Boom, boom, boom. See, manifestation in a year,
Well,
and what I've come to understand about greatness is that it's an everyday pursuit. It's an every moment pursuit. And the only person that can define greatness is you, and the only person that can call you great is you. And
mm,
that's the hard part about us is this fake humility. It's not humble to not think highly of yourself. It's not humble to put yourself down and to make yourself less than. So
mhm,
this whole idea about not asking for permission to be great is stop asking for permission to be who it is that you are and embrace
mhm,
that person. I had a really amazing night last night in my meditation. I've been dealing with in relationships specifically, which this has been coming to me a lot lately, is I feel, I don't know what it is. I've never thought I was the best at relationships, but it seems like I know a good amount about them and I'm doing much better with them now. And I have a feeling that moving forward, a big part of Army of Energy is going to be about relationships, teaching people how to have better relationships, and especially one with themselves.
Mhm.
And so my biggest issue with dating and with relationships in terms of intimacy has been, because of my fear of what other people thought of me, has been dating someone who I perceive to be not very good looking. Is a very vain, is a very
Mm.
vain, deep seated fear, like fight or flight type thing. And for whatever reason, it just hit me last night. I just was in this deep meditation. I was doing hemisync, I think. And I have this picture where I was in the 5th grade and it was my first dance, right? And I fucking have like suspenders on and a tie and shit. And
Yes.
I'm dancing with this girl, and she's kind of big and she's bigger than me. You know what I mean? But I liked her. She was really kind, and
Most
she,
most girls are bigger than the boys at that age.
yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Um, but wherever I was, wherever I grew up, it was just so I liked her. She was a really nice person. She always treated me with a lot of love and respect and everything like that. And then I got ridiculed by the
Mm.
bullies in my class that I was trying to like win over, you know what I mean? And they
Yeah.
just ridiculed me, man. And I forgot about that. And I was always
Okay.
wondering, I was like, why can't I commit to a woman? And and eventually it went from being like the not best looking woman to any, I couldn't commit to any woman, because
Mm-hmm.
what if another one comes around and they're better looking, or they do this and they have that, and the FOMO, you know what I mean? The FOMO was
Yeah.
so real.
Yeah.
And I had so many opportunities to be in great relationships, but because I didn't know who I was, I didn't know what my trauma was, and I didn't ask the right questions because I wasn't willing to talk to myself. I didn't allow myself to be great. I was waiting for someone to come by to give me that greatness, to give me that permission to be
Right.
great, you know? And it was just so mind-boggling last night that that all came together. I even have the picture somewhere. Maybe I'll post it in this
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But when did you come to the conclusion that you were more capable than what you were showing and demonstrating to yourself, that you had more potential? And when
Mhm.
did you give yourself permission to start being great?
Like you said, it's a process with being great. And I feel that too. And I feel like it's nothing is ever a destination, it's a path. And so if I don't keep all of these elements running in my life, then I can slip off the path. And so for me, it's a process of veering off the path, coming back on, veering off the path, coming back. You know what I mean? Like I'm always just reining myself back. Like I'll forget certain routines and
Yep.
things to practice, right? Little ones, like all the time. And so I, but even since a young child, I've always had this. It's like that knowing is really, really, really buried deep inside. And due to all the external relationships and trauma and conditioning, it got buried. And so, like, I think I've always had that feeling, but then other people, because I was like so impressionable, and I am still so impressionable. And I was waiting for like at your dance, right? You were waiting for the kids around you to tell you that this is okay,
Yep.
right? And so like I've had that. Like I know I'm great. I'm like really strong. I know I'm very strong. Um, I'm really good at pushing through, and I'm really good at like hanging in, like when things get really, really tough. But I have allowed external things and people to convince me temporarily that I'm maybe not. So I don't know. I think the last calendar year has been really big for me as far as maintaining some consistency with, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I know what's going on here. I'm not allowing anybody to tell me anything different or convince me of anything different. I know what's right for me.
And
And that's it. Not changing.
absolutely. And no, and there's no point, but we talk about this, we talk about this a lot offline. We talk about contrast and how important it is for our growth.
Yeah.
And what came to me, what kind of came down when you were talking, was self-forgiveness. is
Mhm.
a foundational element to greatness. Because if you
Yeah.
don't allow yourself to make mistakes, if you don't allow yourself to mess up and trust the wrong people and to
Yeah.
gain that contrast, you're gonna
Right.
you're gonna fall every time. And then
Right.
what also came down to me was perfectionism, which we were talking about. I have the deepest, deepest layers of perfectionism. I remember I, it's a trauma thing, but I think this is more than just this life. I think it was just come from all lives or who
Yeah.
we were in like other lives that were,
Right.
outside
And then we
physical.
and then we get so watered down when we're here and we're like, and you're talking about, wanting to do like freehand art, and you're like, wait, but I don't accept this, that I can't just like do it,
Do it. Yeah.
so that to me tells me that there was some basis like in another body, in another form, where you could just whoo,
Yep.
like, and it was just magic,
Instant
like
instant
freehand.
manifestation, right? So
Yeah.
are you impatient? Or you have a hard time like
Oh, extremely.
what I'm getting it from it was that we have remembrance from times where we are where we want to
Yeah.
be. We got where
Yeah.
we want to get. We create what we want to create.
Yeah. And
And
so this we're here in this lifetime as humans, and it's like, nope, unacceptable. This is unacceptable. I do not accept this.
and,
I
and
can do
here's
so much better.
and here's another thing, because of my perfectionism, it almost turned into exactly what happened with dating, where because I knew I couldn't be perfect, I just wouldn't even do it. And so
Yeah.
my childhood was spent waiting to be an adult because I just knew for some reason at 28 things were going to change, and then from there everything was going to be great, which it was. And I mean, I lived my life. I did a lot. I lived hard. I lived fast. I done amazing, crazy things, but it was all experiences. It was all lower chakra experiences. You know what I mean? It was really
Right.
just, I call it my crash course in being human, at least in a
Right.
3D realm, so that I knew what I was up against when we come into this time when we're supposed to lead the earth out of whatever chaos that we've now created. But the
Right.
perfectionism I find myself to be in a lot. I remember being on the pitcher's mound when I was a kid, and then I would walk the
Okay. So
batter.
you
I'd
walk
freak out. I'd have a PTSD meltdown. I'd walk the bases loaded. I'd start walking batters into home plate, and then they'd have to take me out of the game. And that was like
Oh no.
the perfectionism. It got me to
Yeah.
it stunted my ability to experience life as a kid. So people talk about returning to their childhood innocence, and I agree. But
Yeah.
I don't have any memory of childhood innocence. I have memory of being hyper vigilant from a very young age, being super aware, tapped into everybody's emotions around me and blaming myself for it, and just waiting for the pain to end. And
Mhm.
so for me, what I say is childhood innocence is a time before ego for those who don't have childhood innocence.
Yeah.
And how have you been able in the last year to be able to instill this in your daughter and start to really, like you say, you were the beacon for yourself, you became the beacon for your daughter over the last 2.5 3 years through this evolution, but specifically this last year? And how has that affected her in terms of like how has the evolution been for her? Have you seen a change in her demeanor and way of being?
I think that me being who I am, and me being authentic and having integrity and being the cycle breaker, I think that I'm not necessarily seeing outwardly the benefits or the gifts from that in her just yet, but it's kind of an investment, and it's kind of the long game,
Yeah.
where it's gonna this is because this is big lifetime stuff. Like, sure, we get along on a day-to-day basis most of the time. um Usually for her and I, when we're on, and when we're not on, we're having a really hard time, and we're doing this big time. I mean, I feel like her soul is older than mine, and because she acts like my mother. And
She might be your great grandma.
oh man, um, like, I mean, I call her like the fun police. You know what I, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
you
right,
manifested the fun police.
yeah. But okay, so I think it's going to take years and years for until she gets older for her to like realize what kind of person I was. And I've done a lot. I've done a lot that she will not get to know about until she's older, because it's not appropriate for children, and because she doesn't have context. So something that I am going to try to start doing is keeping like writing letters to her or keeping a log, like these are the things, right, that I'm doing and that I'm working on, and then I can give that to her when she gets older.
I had such a light bulb right there because as children of parents, we don't want our parents to feel bad about what happened. We just want acknowledgement and we want
Mhm.
an apology so we can let it go. How incredible would it be to teach parents that every time a situation goes down that's traumatizing to the kid, because everything's the end of the world when you're a child. That's what people don't realize. And
Yeah.
we are the least cognizant of them as humans when they're the youngest, and that's when they
Yeah.
take in the most trauma. It's just this whole ass backwards thing. How
Yeah.
Because I know there are times where you have to be the bad guy. There are times you have to be the authoritarian.
I resent that.
And
I
but if
resent
you
having
don't do it, then they're gonna be
I know.
fucked up.
Yeah.
But how awesome would it be if you could, like you said, write a log where you explain to them whenever they're later on, and they can this is what happened, this is what went down, and this is why I had to do what I did. So it gives them some closure when they're ready to move through it. Something my dad always did really well was he would discipline me, but then after a while, when everything calmed down, he'd come in and he'd say sorry, and he would explain to me why he had to do what he did. And that was always that allowed me to still be pissed off and everything, but it allowed me to take it as a lesson and start to see that everything in life has a purpose, and every situation, especially the most emotionally heightened ones, are the ones that are here to teach you the most. And I think that because we don't have emotional intelligence taught to us, or any intelligence whatsoever, I think that's the issue kids are having, is they are old souls coming in, but they don't have any context because they weren't human before now. A lot of them aren't. I really believe there are beings coming into this planet now, children of light, that were never human ever.
Yeah.
And that's
It,
good. That's why it's this golden age, right?
it is.
Because we're
Yeah.
the jaded ones. We're the
Yeah.
salty freaking sailors now. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I already noticed. I've been coming to this thing like I want to be this, like, just this happy ball of light and energy all the time. And God and my guides are like, they're like, okay, okay, but it's not how you designed yourself. It's not your job. It's your job
Right.
to be truth. It's your job to be
Well,
that mature, respectable, but truthful voice for people who know that whatever you say is coming from the highest in their best interest. Because here's the thing is I've never been able to be this super high, like people don't like me that way. I get taken advantage of so quickly. But all of a
mhm.
sudden I start becoming like you get that little New York, New Jersey thing going on again and stuff. And all of a sudden I get all these friends, and it's like, oh, man, I don't want to be that way though. I want to be the butterfly. Like, come
Yeah.
on. But it's not my
You
job
know,
in this life.
well, and I was thinking about you were talking about a lot of the children, coming in as incarnating on this planet probably for the first time, right? Because like now is the time for those elevated beings to be here. And I know that I've been here a time or two, and I have piles and piles of generational, trauma and karma, and I think there's a purpose why a lot of us that are adults now, like during this shift, have been here for a few times because we that was a prerequisite. Like we had to have some level of like elevated consciousness, but we also had to have, some like earth school behind us because we needed to know both, right? And
I also think it was why we had such a self-destructive, intense first 30 something years, was because we needed that for the remembrance.
oh yeah, I
So
needed
yeah, and so a theory of mine is that the olden gods weren't really gods. They were just higher consciousness beings that helped create the planet and create life and do all that stuff, which
yeah,
we're all God beings. We're all fractals of God. And if you raise your
right,
consciousness to a certain level, then you're able to
yeah,
manipulate things, right? But what I
right,
also believe is that the olden gods were narcissists and they were sociopaths and they corrupted humanity. And that is exactly why the olden gods went from being mythological multiple gods to a monotheistic God, which is the idea of source, not a man in the sky with a white beard, not Zeus, because Zeus was just another god. He was another higher consciousness being. I believe drama was introduced into humanity to spur evolution. I believe that these vehicles are meant to tune us. They're meant to tune our souls. And the more drama that was in this life for the original humans that were here, there was the more drama, the more they had to face stuff, the more they had to actually do things, the more they had to reincarnate, the more they had to go through all this stuff. And so it's funny because you have all these negative energies that are thinking they're doing this and doing that and controlling stuff. And in reality, God at the Godhead, it's just like, keep going. You're just helping us out. They're going to wake up. They're going to wake up. What are you going to do? And now all of a sudden we're all waking up. And everything that they've been controlling over us for the last 12, 50, 100,000, 200,000 years, potentially the whole time that these forms have been under their rule, now we're finally coming to this idea that we are all sovereign fractals of God and we are a connected consciousness. And now they can't control us. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. What are you seeing now? I feel spring has sprung. In your opinion, what are you feeling and seeing in March right now?
Well, it's hard for me to be objective because, okay, well, two things. Like I felt that negative, like maybe that last negative battle. I was having a really hard time. I went through this experience at the tail end of Mercury retrograde where I got in this huge, nasty fight with my family. And it was so triggering because we had done that in the past. And it was the exact, it was
playing it out.
I told you, like, I thought I got out of Mercury retrograde without like anything really huge, but I'm not exempt, right? And so this altercation happened, and I was seeing the same things from them that I've seen many times before, and I was almost like lucid during the time, and I was like, oh, that thing and that thing. I've seen this before. I've seen that before. And my lesson was, that's the last time I'm ever going to do that again. You know what I mean? Like, yep, I had to have that one more time because like, no, I had to decide this is the last time I'm ever going to participate in something like that. And I still have been trying to shake that off. It affected me so deeply because I acted in a way that I don't like acting. It hurts me probably way more than it hurts the other people. But so
it's your pain and then all of their pain, and then we just put it on us.
It's so nasty, man. I can't. The more that I work on myself and heal, like the less tolerance I have for any kind of negativity.
And real quick though, with that, did you give yourself a break? Have you forgiven yourself? B, and 3, did you kind of have your own back and go, I stood my ground and I said what I had to say and I did what I had to do, and it's just what it had to be. It had to be handled that way.
Yeah,
They needed you to handle it that way for them. I'm realizing the universe now will use us as a vessel for their work. And that sometimes it's like an out-of-body experience where I'm like, I'm not in control anymore. And I'm doing their work for them, and I'm doing something as a catalyst.
Yeah, well, and I did kind of think about that, and I did have to work on forgiving myself because it actually was in defense, and so I had to do that, and that was a part of like my greatness is I don't let people treat me a certain way anymore. Not going to happen. You don't treat people like that. You don't say those kind of things. You don't scream in somebody's face like 2 inches, in front of their face. Like, I don't care what the circumstances are. You just don't treat people like that. And so I had to do that. Like, and there's one member of my family, and he's never reacted like this before. My father, when we've had those kind of altercations, he is avoiding me. Will not. It's like this.
You trigger something in him.
And so I had to do that. Like, I'm a woman. I am 36 years old. I will not be talked to. I will not be treated like that. And this is what's going to happen. You're going to get this pushback of me asserting my boundaries. I'm getting off track, but I felt the negativity. I felt a lot of like spiritual battle around that time. And then for me, coming up to the full moon, it was like the end of the retrograde. And then the full moon, my birthday was the 28th. So I had We had the eve of the full moon on the 27th, moving into my birthday. And then I found out that it was a Virgo full moon. And so it was super transformative. And so it's hard for me to be objective because there's like all these things
Still
that
playing
are
out.
that are personal to me, and like my birthday time is always like that coming full circle, and I always like get another level of empowerment around my birthday, and then coupled with coming out of Mercury retrograde and then that full moon and the Virgo full moon for me as a Pisces
Dude.
was beautiful. It was so beautiful. But it's springtime, and like spring is sprung here in Northern California, and it's beautiful. And um yeah, it is.
It's
It's a
time.
rebirth, and it's time. And
And more
what was
and more
it?
people are waking up and they're just done. They're like, I don't want to do this
Yeah,
anymore. This is ridiculous. This is
yeah.
just
And
crazy.
so what I do sometimes, and mind you, I live in the Bay Area of California, and so we're really like one way, and so it's really easy to observe the contrast of like how I walk about this this life compared with the majority of people that do around me. Like I'm in the minority with the way that I do things in this area. Um, and so I've just been watching, like over the course of a year, watching people around me, and then sometimes I'll dip on to like the county, like the city council, like county Facebook lives, and I just like to read people's comments because I like to take a poll of like, okay, where are we at? Where are we at, collective, right? And and it's moving,
It is.
like
It really is.
people, it's so encouraging. And out at the parks, I'm out at the parks with my daughter, and we're not the minority anymore so much. It kind of shifts from day to day, but um, it's so encouraging to see. It is so encouraging
I'm
to see.
I'm
And
really excited. And I take it from a personal lens too. So something that came to me with and why my full moon was just because here's the thing is everything you're going through now, I went through that last year with my family. Like I went through all of that residual ancestral trauma and all that. I still have some residual stuff. It's a life, it's going to be a lifetime. But
yeah,
like we're not having those blowouts anymore. I mean, me and my dad had a couple of those last year where it was like we're nose to nose. We're like, I'm like broken. He's old. We're like, what are we doing? We're like acting like we're 18-year-old Marines, and we're just like,
it's,
it's
it's
freaking ridiculous.
scary.
It
That
was.
can,
It was like I couldn't even control. You can't even control it. Same
yeah,
thing with me, my mom. Same thing with me, and my sister. And what's so crazy is that all of us were under the same roof for the first time in 15, 20 years. For
and that's
randomly
what
brought us
forces
together,
it. Yeah,
and because it needed to happen because we needed to
yeah,
heal so that we can go. But what
yeah,
they came to me with this. My big thing is I have this incessant unquenchable thirst to understand this experience, to understand this
mm,
experience that we're having, this reality. I need to know. That's why I study ancient history. That's why I study
yeah,
consciousness. That's why I study hippie foo-foo stuff. That's why I love it all because
yeah,
it's all interconnected to tell one big, a beautiful, amazing story of creation and Earth saga. So
yeah,
what they came to me with is there is nothing really real outside this experience that you're having. The only reason it's real is because it's real to you. You're
right,
real. Your consciousness is real because we are the same. We have the same consciousness, right? We're from the same source. So your experience is real to you, but anything outside you is pretty much a simulation. Anything
right,
outside me is a simulation. That's why it's called a hologram, because we're all just basically watching shit happen, reacting to it, and then deciding and making choices of how we want to incorporate that and assimilate that sensory information, right? So that's why it's very important for me. I talk about spirit science is because there's some people that understand science that don't understand spirituality, and there's some people that understand spirituality and energy that don't understand science. You bring those two worlds together, you find people who are really good at speaking like you and I, who can use metaphors and allegories and things like that, and then all of a sudden the world opens up for everyone. And that's what I'm trying to do here. That's what I want to do with moving forward. And so, why I talk about this human experience so much is because how are you feeling, right? If you're aligned, if you're a spiritual being, if you're awake and aware, what's going on inside what's the dichotomy going on inside your experience? And then you can kind of match it to what's happening outside of you. because we are a collective now, especially as you move up through your bottom chakras and your service to self, and you move past that complete dedicated service to others, and we start serving ourselves so that we can serve others. I call it Hue, lower chakras, man, upper chakras, and then being are your third eye, your crown, and your ascension chakras. And when you can move into your chakras and you can move your cerebral spinal fluid, your Christos, your Christ oil up your spine and get it into your brain, all of a sudden you start to come online to your multidimensionality. And all being a multidimensional being is tapping into the collective consciousness that we all are. And that's why I wouldn't say life becomes easier, because it never becomes easier, because it just matches your level of skill and experience, but it becomes a lot less frustrating, becomes a lot less intense in terms of like how you were with that blowout with your family. That was a normal weekly occurrence for me for a very long time. I thought it was just normal. Now when that happens, like you, it's like, I need to take showers. I need to go to therapy. I need to go to a retreat. Like I just need to get this off.
It's still hanging on, and it's not necessarily what the other people are doing. It's when I act in that state that I poison myself. I literally poison myself, and then my tolerance, like for people screaming at me, like right in my face, it literally attacks my nervous system.
Yep.
So as soon as I'm out of that situation, and my brain and my body knows that like I'm safe, and I'm not in it anymore, I have the and I'm vibrating, and I start falling apart. And
something that really hit me is when I got into that would happen to me out in public when people would come at me about the masks and all that stuff. And I would have PTSD triggers, which if anyone out there knows what a PTSD trigger is, it's debilitating. Your brain just stops working. It's so crazy. I'm like one of the most capable people I ever know. And then all of a sudden PTSD trigger hits and you're just like, I don't even know what the words are.
Well, yeah, it's fight or flight. And
but what was so crazy was when I was having the mask experience, it was something I had to go through. And something I also realized is that a part of the PTSD is the calcification of our pineal gland and the calcification of the frontal lobe of our brain. And when I would go into those, when I'd have those blowouts as I was detoxing and as I was cleaning my diet up and as I was healing, I would feel pieces of calcium break off of like my frontal lobe. And all of a sudden I'd be in that intense situation and my vision would go, And I would be like, because I'd be like shaking, I'd be the energy, the vortex, and then it would like go straight to my brain, and it would shake and break almost the calcium off, and I would actually digest some of that trauma after that. And so it's a really intense experience. It's kind of scary, but I've had a lot of fun experiences in my life. So for me, when my brain starts doing weird shit, I'm just like, oh, what's going on now? Like, yay, it's fun. But it really felt like I was going to pass out, And so because I got really good at breathing, you start breathing, you breathe through the hyperventilation, you breathe through and all of a sudden you're lighter and you feel calmer. And I think that's really important to talk about, to caveat into this next topic. As we're in a new season, which means we need to be new people. We need to treat ourselves different. We need to treat other people different. And the first thing that we need to start doing is forgiving ourselves. The second thing we need to start doing is giving ourselves a break, because you are perfect, even when you mess up. So it's kind of like how we process and how we handle shit is how we process and how we handle shit. And just know that I finally got a definition of success that I can get behind. And a definition of success that I found that I love is, if you're pursuing goals and you're doing it to the best of your ability every day, you're successful. There's no end to this sojourn. There's no end to a goal, because every time a goal ends, you're just like, oh, well, got to make another goal. Go chase that.
It's not a destination. It's a journey. And our society has done a really good job of conditioning us into destination addiction. Like, I got to get there. I got to achieve this, and then I will have arrived.
Yep.
Right. Absolutely. I have arrived. And it's just, once I stopped looking at the journey, at life, the human experience, like I was going to arrive someday. Never. I'm going to arrive when I die, when my body dies. Like that to me is arrival,
And then you're going to just go do some more stuff, and it's going to have its own
right?
challenges. And
But
I guess for me,
yeah,
I think the issue with challenges so much so, um, probably faced at me the whole time. That would have helped. Whatever. I think the biggest challenge is it was the triggering. I realized just recently that when I get a phone call, I don't get that fight or flight response, sinking
mm,
feeling in my stomach. When I hear the doorbell ring, I don't go into fight or flight. When I hear my name get called, I don't go into fight or flight. When I think about doing something, I don't go into fight or flight. When we start to take inventory of what really goes on energetically in our bodies when things happen, I was literally in fight or flight my whole life. And
yeah.
because I've done the right work at the right time, now I'm embracing challenges because I don't think it's the end of the world. And I don't immediately go into that triggered, how am I going to do this? I'm not good enough. Oh my God.
And perfectionism.
And
Like
how
suddenly you have to be able to do it 100%.
and so
Right.
how in this new season do you plan on breaking more of your perfectionism and allowing yourself to just go through the sojourn?
I take on little bites these days,
Yes. Yes.
and so I'm really ADD, and because like I have a lot of adulting to do. Like I'm starting a new career. I'm going to be going back to school. I have a side hustle of doing, dog portraits for people. I'm parenting. I have like my different therapies. I have two legal cases going on, one of which I'm representing myself in family court, and there's another legal case going on that I'm kind of just an observer. Anyways, there are all these things, and there are all like these 3D Earth world like requirements, like paperwork, these kind of things, and so I'm so ADD, so I allow myself to be flowy and distractible and ADD by giving myself one bite off of this project, one bite off of that project, right? So I can satisfy, oh, but now I want to do this, So I hop all around and I hop back and forth, like, and that's how I'm able to be successful at the moment. And I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I tried.
Like,
My thing is I'm the person. It's just ironic. This is so ironic that I don't like anxiety, but the only way in the past I was able to get really good work done is if I have that time crunch
pressure.
last minute and I have that pressure to get it done.
Yeah.
I'm finally able, as I mature and I heal, I'm able to get away from that and able to just invest my time into doing a project. And
Because
another
you
thing that
want,
but
because you want to,
because I want to now, and
not
I
because
want
somebody
that
else
feeling
wants
of accomplishment now.
to. Yes.
It's to me, it was always, I want to not be I want to not be doing what I'm doing because I want to go do nothing. Because the only time
Mhm.
that I felt good growing up was when I wasn't doing anything or playing video games or distracted somehow, because I wasn't then in
Mhm.
my own head thinking of how
Escape.
horrible of a person I am. And now
Escape.
that I'm finally in a point where it's just I flow all day and I don't have those thoughts, I can now. So for me, the VA thing was getting my VA benefits has been just hell, because I made it hell for me, because the egregore that is the VA, because the egregore that is getting your VA benefits, that people manifested this idea that this is a horrible process and it's terrible. And is this suck?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not convenient, but it's not that hard. You do your paperwork,
Mhm.
you wait a bunch, you go to your meetings, you go to your thing, you get denied, you do it again, you get it. It's really not that, but we create it as veterans. We
Right.
create this
So it
analogy
becomes
or
that.
the story. We create the
So it
story of it.
becomes.
And so
Yeah.
so now I want to move into this idea. We're talking about greatness. We're talking about not asking for permission. We talked about how the future city of lights aren't going to require licenses and all this
Yeah.
crap. There's no one going to be getting sued and all that stuff. How do we start that today? How, now that spring has sprung, now it's 2021, I'm feeling stronger and better than ever.
Yeah.
What can I do today to start building my city of light? And how, and like, so anybody in the audience, kind of like, what would you kind of give them?
It's so hard because we're so far from that currently with the way things look out there. But I think the first step is introducing the awareness into the rest of the collective that hasn't come online yet, introducing the awareness that these are failing systems, and they have been failing us for years. I mean, for me personally, I don't think they've ever really served us. They've served the overlords who introduced them to us with the guise of they're here to serve you. But I think the first thing is to introduce to the collective that, thinking that we're going to be able to seek solutions, the ones that we're looking for from our current government and from our current social programs, it's the same. This is insanity. It's the same level of insanity as going to the ATM, continually hitting up the ATM when there's no money in the bank account. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's not there. Like it would be ramming our heads up against the wall to be expecting solutions from the government and the social programs that we have in place. They're not designed to actually serve us.
No, they're meant to keep us stressed,
to control and to force us like into, this direction.
Mm-hmm.
And
You wrote a word when we were talking through text earlier this week. You wrote voluntarianism or voluntarism.
yeah.
Explain a little bit more about that, because I think it's important moving forward that in order for us to break away from these institutions, these egregore institutions, is we're going to have to then volunteer our time. And this is the other thing, is that we're really going to need to get past this whole thing where I need to get paid for everything I do. There really needs to be this energetic exchange of love and light and energy. How do we get past that? What's in it for me?
I'm not totally sure, but it's like voluntarism is voluntary interactions only. So there, we look at the possibility of people not being lawsuit happy. I'm going to sue you because you did this to me. If you're looking at it from a higher perspective, fuck no, they didn't do it to you. You chose to allow that and to participate in that. So you have no basis to criminalize somebody else. You participated. And so it brings everything back to ourselves. We are the authority of ourselves. And anything that I do, I can't hold other people liable for what I do, because I choose everything that I do.
And I think what's important is that we start understanding the fact that we give our consent at every moment of every day.
Exactly.
With our money.
It's never anybody else's fault.
With our clicks. Well, it really isn't, because it isn't anybody else's fault. It's their fault for what they did. It's your fault for whatever, but it's not fault. Again, it's this whole idea of whose fault it is. Again, that's the bullshit of it. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. It's what happened. What happened? What can we change next time, and how can we move forward?
Yeah.
And again, again, we're not in our culture's is being stolen from us. There's a genocide happening, which I can't even talk about. I can't talk about the genocide that's happening across the world right now, to history, to a certain people, a certain people who don't have the right to speak out or speak out about it. These are the real things that are going on. But what I love about this starseed, way shower, light worker, light warrior, emissary of light community is that we're all flavors, baby. We're Baskin and Robbins. We're come from all walks of life. We call from all parts of the universe, and we're in every part of this world right now in a literal grid of light. And I think what we're moving into, which I talked to, I think in the last episode, is I think we're going to start congregating. I think we're going to start coming together and really pushing this great awakening to the next level. And you were talking about the great awakening last time and how it's so much bigger than just somebody coming in going, this is what they were doing, and now here's all this free stuff, and you get to do all this cool shit because you don't have to work for it. Why is it, in your opinion, why is it called the Great Awakening, and what have most Americans, but most people in the world, not realized about the Great Awakening in terms of it's on us to make it happen?
Well, yeah, like we discussed that nobody's going to save us. And the way that I see the Great Awakening is, you look at what people call it, besides Ascension, people call it the Great Awakening, right? And this is not like this is this is huge. And so we can't underestimate, like we should not be underestimating how large and momentous this is. It is the great awakening of humankind. You know what I mean? Like it's
All
huge.
of
And
us.
yeah, and so after thousands, a lot of people think that like we're just coming, coming to after, like, if they're thinking really small, like they're thinking politically, or they're thinking over the last couple of years, couple hundred years. I start talking really, really fast when I get really excited. It's because up here it's going faster than I can say it. But no, this is thousands, hundreds of thousands of years since we have been, human beings on this planet. We have been controlled and slaves. And so for the first time, we're coming out of that, where we're not going to be slaves anymore. And so I did have a quote, and this is a quote that I had already liked. And this is by Gautama Buddha, and it's, none of us, no one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. And so when I hear that, it's like, no one can, right? But no one may, because it's not anybody else's job to interfere with each individual person's, you know, spiritual path. Like, it's not my right. Like, I don't interfere with other people's stuff and impose my will on them, because they have their own deal with their higher power as to the lessons they need to learn and how they need to learn them. But this is huge.
That was big for me. I mean, I was a big not unsolicited advice giver for a very long
Yes.
time.
Well, and we want to
And
help.
I want to help everybody, and I know better, but I do. But I do. And as long as it's you, as long as I'm giving it to you, as long as take my own medicine.
I was just going to say that too. I'm really good at giving that, but then
Yeah,
taking my own advice is,
all that, yeah. But what's so important about this time now is this non-interventionism. My friend, she asked me, we worked through some deep trauma over a 2.5 hour conversation. It was amazing. It felt like she did 10 years of therapy in 2.5 hours. It was incredible.
nice.
And she worked through this thing, and I didn't talk to her for 2 weeks. And she goes, "Hey, where'd you go? I haven't heard from you." And I was like, "Oh, because I was also dealing with my own stuff. But what they've been coming to me with is, you can no longer be a non-interventionist. If people come to you and ask for your help, then you can help them." And I told her, I was like, when I talked to her yesterday, I was like, I wasn't allowed. You didn't contact me. So I knew you had to assimilate all of that work we did. I knew you needed some time to spend with yourself. And I'm working on to stop giving unsolicited advice. And I'm also working on listening twice as much as I speak this year, because I am a talker. I love it.
Well, and this goes back to voluntarism, voluntary interactions only. So if somebody comes to you and they engage, or they ask for help, or they ask what your thoughts or opinions are, then you can participate. I mean, for me, like, everything always comes back to voluntary interactions only. What am I choosing? And this person does not have to interact with me. They don't have to be in my life. But if they're choosing, if they're in my life, it's because they're choosing and I'm choosing. And do no harm. I think those are two of the foundations of how do we move forward from this kind of society that we've had into a brand new one.
So let's finish this conversation out with your idea of what a future city of light can look like. Let's take it from each level. Let's take it. So as I study paleoanthropology, even when the olden gods came down, they had to build like little shelters, and they had to grow all this stuff too. And this is exactly what's going to have to happen for us. And I want to know kind of like what you're seeing, because you're a visionary. You're a multidimensional quantum computer visionary. I love it. So I want to hear, like, what do you think a future little conclave is going to look like, or maybe like a commune, or then like a town, and then like a city? Like, how do you see it playing out?
Well, I mean, we have to get rid of money. Come on.
It's just pointless.
Dude, I hate money
I
so
hate
much.
I hate it. Yeah.
It's just it
Muddles
yeah.
everything. It muddies everything to me. But.
Yeah. So bartering, trading service for service, or something that you create, or grow or whatever. Um, and I don't know, like, people think I'm really radical, but I I just don't. If people are hearing me and they're like, oh, okay, smarty pants, how do we have
Okay,
our,
Tinkerbell.
like, how do we have this society without all these things? And they're thinking that a future society for us that's successful looks the same as we have it now, but somehow everything's going to be better. No, we don't have any of those things anymore. Like, the schooling for children, no, they don't need that. You know,
They need math. I mean, they do need like reading and stuff like, but you could teach them all that stuff. And I think it's
yeah,
also smaller, more intimate classes
yeah,
where the kids grow with the teacher. I think it's really important. And the kids grow
yeah,
with each other. They grow in a class.
yeah. And it doesn't take up all the time that it
All
does
right,
now.
I have this idea, right?
Not
So I have this idea
required.
where we spend
Ugh,
4 hours in book learning a day, and then you take the kids outside and you take them into nature and you spend 4 hours teaching them how to grow stuff, teaching them how to tie knots, teaching
how to
them how
care
to
for things.
and survive. But here's the thing is I
Yeah.
don't think we should be completely off grid. I don't think there should be any tech. Like, I think we should have technology, but it should
Yeah.
be smart technology. I don't want
Well,
my
yeah.
house to be attached to the internet of things so they can shut down my entire thing, but what I'm thinking is like the Tesla batteries that are going to come out,
Mhm.
every unit should have their own energy source and it should be completely decentralized. But so I have this question, because one of my things is what I loved about the Marine Corps was that you were in a community. You work with the people you live with the people you hung out with, and it's a community. I mean, that's the only reason I feel we survive that high stress environment is because we have each other in there. And
Yeah.
all around the world they have that still, and all around with especially in Native American people, or Native Americans, the native tribal people, which they say are the original earth humans, the original Lumerians, right? Who
Right.
know, they know what's up.
Yeah. They always have.
you
They're
know
like, nobody, you guys
our
haven't even been
culture is
asking
like we're
her.
so spread out, and it takes
Yeah.
40 minutes to drive everywhere and all this stuff. Do you see us coming together and like intermingling more and being more communal? I don't like to use the
I,
word commune because I think of like hippies and things like that,
I
which
know.
is I don't have a problem with hippies, but people do, so I don't know.
I know. Dude, a commune sounds great to me.
I'm
you
about
know, I do. I kind of see like small little like mini communities of either like multi-generational families, or if that's not vibing, like, you create your own like little soul family, and you work together and you contribute, and then amongst,
yeah.
like, a bunch of small, and then, a bunch of those small communities together. And I
So
don't
for me,
know.
I read an article last year where there was this Georgia couple that wanted to start their own Black community, which they would allow white people in there, but they wanted their own community to be able to be their own government, to be, and Georgia gave them a pass. I don't know if what happened after the whole COVID or everything, but Georgia gave them an opportunity to get in it within a year. It said that you have to have 3 municipality services up and running to start your own town. And then they'll give you a charter and they'll help you do all that thing. I don't know if the states right now, as it is going to actually do anything. But what I found to be really funny was there was an article out saying that Georgie Boy, you know who Georgie Boy is, right? The S Man, SOROS. I
Okay.
don't want to say
Yeah.
his name.
Yep.
He apparently, so I've been following this thing called the Convention of States for like fucking 5-6 years now. And they've been doing this for 20 years. They've been trying to do this thing called the Convention of States, where you get 2/3 of the states to agree to do a convention. That means that the American people are able to bring Congress in a convention to talk about the Constitution and talk about rewriting congressional rules and regulations and things like that. And they're getting really close to doing it. And that's why all of a sudden that article came out saying how, oh, the Convention of States is going to support, SOROS, and all this and that happened. But in reality, the Convention of States is what's going to give the power back to the people to run their own states, so that we can actually start building these cities of lights within these municipalities, within these areas. But until we break away and we get that smaller government that we were promised, it's going to be hard. But I'm serious. The last week, Jules, I've just I feel like myself for the first time in 5 years in terms
Mm.
of like energy and like, and I feel a more virile, and I feel lighter and healthier, and I don't have to, spend so much time rehabbing now. And it's like, shit's coming together. It's coming around. And I really think we're onto something here. I really think, um, I think it's happening. So I want to give you the final word for this conversation, and then we'll sign off.
Yeah. I don't like I said in my video, like I don't know exactly how we do everything, but I see a future where there is no longer a need for, you know, overreach and control. And my personal experience has been that as soon, as we start to make things really official and like, uber organized and tons of rules, um, then like that's when things get destroyed.
It's
And
so
so
it's so crazy. It's
that's
so
that's when
true.
that's when the magic is
There's no
gone.
flow. There's no flow.
There's no flow, and then
No
like the
spirit.
rules, yeah, the rules become like the higher power.
And that's why there's no we're not, again, what I said was, in order to learn to create, in order to create, you need to know how to create, and in order to know how to create, you need to be in alignment with your creator. That's why that's why socialism doesn't work, is
Right.
because when you suck the spirit out of a people, they can no
Yeah.
longer
No
sustain
soul.
technological innovation. They can no longer sustain arts and entertainment. And the soul, when the
Yeah.
soul decays, the body cannot exist.
And it collapses on itself
Boom.
because they're supposed to be like productive, right? In that political model,
And
right?
they try to take us away from our natural disposition as human
Yeah.
beings, which is to be in alignment with our creator. Because here it
Yeah.
is. The term worship came from an ancient Sumerian term that stood for work. It's not about sitting here in a church or sitting there in a synagogue or and in praying all day. It's about doing the right work at the right time within yourself, doing your creation external work, which is towards
Yeah.
your purpose and your destiny, being in alignment with your creator, full of love and light. And that's how you become great, because you already are. You came
Yeah.
into this life great. We're just
I
remembering.
know. That's the
So
secret. A lot of people don't know. And I think the concept of doing away with the ruling class and with government, it 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 needs to come because the reason why we have found ourselves here as a collective humanity is because we have given up our sovereignty to allow other people to tell us what's best for ourselves.
and
And
perceived comfort.
yeah, and so there's been a trade-off. Like we have consented. Like we are here now because for thousands of years we have consented and we have paid the price of I will give up my personal sovereignty for some
Safety.
menial comforts and conveniences and safety. And so that's where we're at right now is the I think we're coming out of that time where we're willing to allow other people to make decisions for us, and where we're willing to allow other people to convince us that we are something that we aren't, what that we have some sort of illness when we don't.
Right?
How bonkers is that? I'm like, how why are we here right now where like some people are allowing other people to convince them that they're sick when they're not? It's so crazy to me. So that's gonna get axed. I think we're in the
And
process.
it's
Like that is getting
fast. And it's
crumbled and destroyed as we sit here and speak with each other today. And so when we don't have that anymore, like there is going to be no purpose and power for the ruling order. They just don't have any power anymore.
And how about this? Why would I want to go to the grocery store and buy fruits and vegetables from Monsanto when I can grow them in my backyard, not spend any money, make more money on the side, and actually have that for everyone out there, get your hand in some dirt and grow a tomato bush. It's the easiest thing. You plant some seeds and the thing just grows. It's a vine, it's a weed.
Well,
It is the most beautiful, it is the most exciting, and it is the most soul filling thing to see your plant start to come out of the ground and then you pick off your first cherry tomato and it's divine, and you're just
And
like,
and people don't understand who have never tasted like a homegrown fruit or vegetable from their garden. I'm not a very green thumb, by the way. I would need some help with that. I always like I kill cactus, I kill succulent, I smother them.
you can't
Which,
overwater. Yeah, you can't
yeah,
overwater. Yeah.
just give you a tidal wave. Don't you
And
like it?
cactus, they survive in the desert, so they don't need some.
I'm like, oh, but they,
Yeah.
but they've never tasted. So here's the disconnect. Here's the bridge, like the gap that we need to bridge is there are people that are not even aware of how satisfying that is, or how a homegrown tomato or a homegrown strawberry, by the way, and strawberries are little, they're little. They're not this big like they are in the stores, right?
And here's another thing: is if they can make a watermelon seedless, they can make you seedless.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
But I don't want to end this conversation on that quote. So let's.
No,
Right,
but so the thing that we need to bridge, and I think that that's like one of the purposes why I'm here, and why I've gone through what I've gone through, my contrast, my struggles, the really intense traumas and addiction, stuff like that. Is so now I have the tools and the experience to help people come out of, because I've gone through all that stuff on a personal level, but our collective, there's a reason why I know a lot about addiction and about trauma, because that's what as a collective we need to heal and move out of right now. And I'm here right now because I know how to do that. And I know how to help people heal themselves. And so the gap that I think we need to bridge is explaining to people, showing to people why they want to plant that tomato plant, and how much better something tastes from their backyard. Like, because there's a lot of people that are so stuck in their technology and their busy work lives that are like, well, why? You're just a bunch of fruity hippies. Like,
and
I see nothing in it for me.
and somebody
We
who's
have to
never
show them.
and somebody who's never felt good, how could you
Yeah,
tell them? How could they have reference
they
to
have
no, you'll
no,
feel better? Like, what does that even mean?
yeah, like, oh, well, I feel pretty good, right
And
now. Like,
that's why being the beacon is so important, is because it's not so much, oh, you should do this because you'll feel better. It's, why do you feel so good? Oh, I've been
yeah,
doing this and this and that.
it's attraction.
There it is.
It's
Thank you
it's
so much,
attraction.
Jewel Rose. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. It was such an
You too.
amazing conversation. As always, you're a wonderful human being, and we're going to keep going and do more and more of these. I'm even thinking about putting your video up in this video, so it might happen. If not,
Okay.
I'll drop the link so people can go to your Instagram and they can check it out.
Okay.
But yeah, let's do it again. So let me know.
Okay.
All right.
Yay. Bye.
Bye. I'll
Appreciate
talk to
you.
you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
I don't wait for permission to walk outside my house and go for a walk in the park. I don't wait for permission to take my 6-year-old daughter into the store without a mask. I don't wait for them to tell me it's okay. I just do. And I'm kind about it, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody. But if I walked into a store with my 6-year-old daughter and asked them if it was okay that she didn't wear a mask in their store, I can guarantee you they would say no. Asking for permission, asking for permission to stop wearing a mask, asking for permission to experience an embrace or a hug or closeness with somebody. It's the same thing to me. It's the same thing as being in an abusive relationship with an abusive person and asking your abuser when you can leave. So it's the same thing, like asking your governmental agencies such as Big Brother to give you permission and to tell you when you can go back to hugging people or to tell you when you can go back to work is the same thing as being in an abusive relationship. Somebody that is pounding you over and over day after day and who is trapping you. And then it's the same level of insanity as turning to that abuser and saying, may I leave? Do I have your permission to leave? Of course you don't. That's the thing. If you have to ask, you give up your rights. If you have to ask for permission to do something, you are automatically giving your sovereignty, giving authority over to that person or that agency. They know. They got your balls. If you have to ask It's not going to happen. If you're sitting around waiting for it to happen and waiting for them to tell you to go back to life as normal, it's not going to happen. The point of this is to get us off our asses, to light a fire in our soul, to turn us back into the people, the human beings that we were originally intended to be, and to go forward and try and make a world that is worth living in society the way that we've been living for the last couple hundred years. I feel like we're not meant to live that way. And the longer we sit around and wait for permission to go out there and make some changes, and I feel really passionately about contributing to the soul and the spiritual progression of human beings on this planet right now, to get us to the point where we do have the highest good interests in our heart, and there's not as many risks of us committing crimes and hurting each other. And that comes from, spiritual solace. We have to evolve a little bit, but it doesn't stop me from seeing it. I see it in our future, and somebody's got to see it, and then somebody's got to say, hey, let's go there. I can see it on our horizon. I think we're capable, and whatever I can do to get us to that point where we can live in the future, and we can move about this planet freely as sovereign beings, doing what each one of us knows inside our hearts completes us and makes us happy and feel joy and feel prosperous and successful, then that's a life worth living for me. And so it is my intention to act as my own authority, and to educate myself, and to stand in my truth and stand in my power, and to be a sovereign person. And I'm not about to ask for permission to live my life or to be happy or successful anymore. I hope this message reaches you in love and light. Thanks. Good night.